Speaking of not good or interesting, this was kind of cool. So this is something that's going around, are these clips of like development footage of how they achieve certain tricks in video games.
You already know, you are in the back of a police cruiser heading down the highway.
This is from the Walking Dead game from ages ago, but people will often say, hey, like the reflection in the mirror was so sharp. How did they do that before ray tracing? With trickery, my friends.
Back of a police cruiser heading down the highway towards prison, and with only one exception, the camera is focused inside of the vehicle at all times. Now, the first thing I noticed, and it's the first thing I want to show you, is that you may recall being able to see the reflection of the officer in the rear view mirror. Well, video games love to do all sorts of different tricks in order to do reflections, but how it's pulled off in The Walking Dead is a little outside of the ordinary.
So they just create a duplicate of the model, mirror all of his actions and animations and everything. And then they put this little like tunnel around him to simulate the motion behind the car. And then when you are looking at it from this angle, they just cull everything else, or basically don't render anything else that's outside of this little viewport. So you don't see it. So it's not a reflection. It's just a really clever way of faking a reflection such that you can't tell. But this is how, you know, they used to pull this stuff off in games before you could just brute force it with ray traced reflections and stuff, you know? You just had to come up with a different way of doing it. And they managed to pull it off, man. Like, that's pretty freaking cool. Shout out to Sheezes from Boundary Break for sharing that. It's just pretty baller. It's pretty baller. A similar technique has been used for your grandpa's RTX in the earlier 3D era. Reflections like that were often made using semi-transparent floors and duplicated geometry with blurry textures. As you can see here, where they just put the characters on top, but then they mirror the character. I can zoom in, enhance. They mirror the character on the underside of the floor. And so you're just rendering all of it at the same time, but that's still less processing power to do than a full-on ray traced reflection and stuff. But this is part of the reason why people look back at these older games. They're like, this game had better reflections than the ray traced reflections I get on my PS5. And it's because it's not actually a reflection. It's a trick. It's a trick, but it looks pretty good, right? It looks pretty good. But it's not actually a reflection. You know, it's just made to appear as one. It's just a trick. But another fun little detail that was also shared as part of this whole trend that's going around was this from Synth Potato. One of my favorite game dev is insane moments is how in Fallout New Vegas, the ending slides were actually done by locking the player in a tiny room and having an NPC behind the wall narrate the endings. Game developers are the coolest people around. And as you can see here, this is what the ending of Fallout New Vegas looks like. But if you unlock the camera through dev controls, you are just standing in an empty room staring at a wall, which basically has like a projected movie texture to it. But because of how the creation engine works, they can't actually just have dialogue play in this way. So what they did to lock you in position staring in this one location is they put an NPC behind the screen and had you enter a conversation with that NPC so that you were locked face to face with them as the dialogue played out. And that's how they did it. And that's how the ending plays out. Ron the narrator is his name. But that's how they did it there, which is also just kind of freaking cool, you know? But you have to remember, like with all these games, like this is how they have to pull it off. They're using the same tools as everybody else, so they don't have any like magic additional tools they specifically make for these things. They just have like their list of tools that they can use, and then they find a way to make it work for what they need to do. There was another one I saw that was also interesting. I mean, this is also a fairly well-known one. So in Bethesda games, for example, if you ever go to a shop in like a BGS game, all of the goods for the shop are stored in a chest that is physically in the game world. Usually it's stored underneath the map, underneath where the store is. And basically when you interact with a vendor, they are pulling items from that chest, right? Fun little detail, which you might remember from the launch of Starfield, was that they put the chest too close to the surface of the ground where players would walk. So there was a way for players to go and like crouch down in front of this puddle in, I forget the planet, or Aquila City. And if you crouch down, you can actually get close enough to the chest where all of those goods are stored and pull inventory from it. So you can rob the store of everything because you basically get access to the vault without having to actually do anything, which is just kind of funny. It's just kind of funny. But there's so many little tricks like this, you know, there's so many. It's just fascinating. It's fascinating. In the original Mario Brothers game, they use the same sprite for the clouds and bushes. The bushes are just displayed in green. Oh yeah, back in the day when memory was super precious. Also, the train in Fallout 3 was just a train car on a dude's head. Yeah, so this is, maybe I can find that one because I also saw that one. Train Fallout 3. Yeah, Mr. John Robertson tweeted this, and then Gandalf the Fool retweeted it or screenshotted it or whatever. This is my favorite gaming fact. In Fallout 3, the game couldn't support a train for the player to ride in, but it could make NPCs walk, so the devs made a train a hat. The guy just wanders beneath the ground wearing his train hat, just being public transport. Which, I mean, my understanding of this is basically that they don't have the ability to have, like, agents within the game that operate independently unless they are labeled in the game's engine as an NPC. So you basically think of it as like how you set it up. My understanding is that you can't just have like put a box in the world and give that box this logic to travel in this way. Only NPC classed things can do that. So they were like, okay, well, we need the train to move around. Let's just make it a guy and we'll just hide the guy and do it that way. Just do it that way. Cayman also mentioned, also fun fact about Bethesda games, there are no disembodied voices. You can do it with the engine. So for stuff like the Daedric Lords, there's a model of them in an inaccessible room that the voice is tied to. Also, all the shops have a chest with inventory underneath them, which is something we've also mentioned. Yeah, this one with the Fallout New Vegas ending for the secret room. Yeah. There's a lot of fun little tricks like that in these games that just make you appreciate it. Like doing a lot of this stuff required a lot of innovation and just clever solutions. That's the key. Like it's not about brute forcing it. It was about these clever ways of working around the restrictions of the hardware. And it's why also nowadays it can be a little underwhelming to see that like that sort of creative solution is not used anymore. At least the same ones aren't used because you can just brute force it. You just go in Unreal Engine, like check the box that says ray traced reflections and just brute force it. Just let the engine and the GPU figure it out and just do it. Like there's no finesse with it. It's just figure it out, you know?